She said, "If you really loved me, you'd co-sign this loan for my ex. He needs help starting over." I laughed. She didn't. But when she showed up to the bank with him, the documents she saw waiting on the desk changed everything. Every relationship has that one person on the outside who just seems to be waiting for it to fail. For me, that person was my girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, Kevin. He was less of a person and more of a walking, talking bad investment, and for some reason, my girlfriend Maya thought he was the next big thing. For 4 years, I thought Maya and I were building something solid. We lived in my condo, a place I'd bought with the first serious money I ever made. We were a team, or so I believed. She was a marketing manager, smart and charismatic, and we were on the same page about our future. We had a joint savings account for a house, we talked about marriage, about kids. The blueprint was sound. I wasn't carrying her. We were walking the path together. But every portfolio has one high-risk junk bond stock that you hold on to for sentimental reasons. Maya's was Kevin. He was a walking, talking cautionary tale. A guy in his early 30s who had never quite outgrown his college-level ambition, which was to get by with as little effort as possible. He was a serial entrepreneur, which meant he had a new, brilliant, world-changing idea every 6 months, none of which ever got further than a hastily designed logo and a request for seed money from his friends and family. He was charming, in a slick, used car salesman kind of way, and had a permanent aura of victimhood. The world was always against him. The timing was never right. The investors were just too blind to see his genius. Maya's relationship with him was a source of quiet, consistent friction between us. She had a massive savior complex when it came to Kevin. They had dated for years before me, and she still saw him as the brilliant, misunderstood artist he pretended to be. She was the only one who got him. She was his safety net, his cheerleader, and, as I would soon discover, his unofficial line of credit. "He just needs one good break," she would tell me, after another one of his brilliant ideas had fizzled out, leaving him temporarily short on rent. "He's not like you, Jake. He doesn't have your stability. He's a creative." I just nod and bite my tongue. I'm not a jealous man. I'm a risk assessor by trade. I manage finances for a living. And Kevin was the riskiest asset I had ever seen. But I loved Maya, and I trusted her judgment, even when my own internal alarms were screaming. The situation came to a head last month. Kevin, it seemed, had his masterpiece idea. A gourmet, artisanal, farm-to-table food truck. It was, of course, going to revolutionize the culinary world. He had the name, he had the logo, he had a vague idea about serving expensive tacos. All he needed was a $100,000 business loan to buy the truck and get started. Predictably, every bank in the city had laughed him out of the building. His credit score was a joke, he had no assets, and his business plan was apparently written on a napkin. So he went to his safety net. He went to Maya, and Maya in turn came to me. She sat me down on the couch, her face a mask of serious, heartfelt concern. She told me about Kevin's dream, about how this was his one real shot. And then she delivered the ask. "He just needs a cosigner, Jake," she said, her eyes wide and pleading, "just to get him on his feet." The bank said with a strong cosigner, the loan would be a sure thing. I waited for the punchline. There wasn't one. "You want me," I said slowly, "to cosign a $100,000 loan for your ex-boyfriend, a man who has never successfully managed a project in his life." Her face hardened. The pleading look was gone, replaced by a cold disappointment. "I knew you wouldn't understand," she said. "This isn't about you. This is about helping someone who is struggling. This is about empathy." Then she played her final card. She reached out and took my hand. "If you really loved me," she said, her voice a low, serious whisper, "you'd do this. You'd co-sign this loan for my ex. He needs help starting over. It's a test of your commitment to me, to what I care about." I just looked at her. A test. She was presenting me with a demand that could potentially ruin me financially, a demand to underwrite the fantasy of a proven failure, and she was framing it as a test of my love. I did something she did not expect. I laughed. It was not a mean laugh. It was a laugh of pure, unadulterated disbelief. The kind of laugh you let out when a client tells you they want to invest their entire retirement fund in a company that sells diet water for cats. It was the laugh of a professional who has just been presented with the single worst investment proposal of his entire career. She did not laugh. Her face went rigid with anger. "I'm serious, Jake." "I know you are," I said, my laughter dying down, replaced by a cold, professional calm. And that's the terrifying part. I saw the argument coming. The tears, the accusations of being cold and unfeeling. I did not want to have that argument, because you never argue with a bad investment. You just divest. And I suddenly saw a way to do it cleanly, efficiently, and in a way that would provide a much-needed and very painful market correction. "Okay," I said, my tone shifting to one of professional consideration. "I'll do it." Her angry expression melted into a look of stunned, triumphant relief. "You will?" "I will," I said, "on one condition. I don't sign anything without doing my own due diligence. That's how I operate. We will all three of us, you, me, and Kevin, go to my bank. We will sit down with my personal loan officer, a woman named Carol who has handled my finances for 10 years. We will present her with Kevin's business plan, and we will go over all the numbers. If she agrees that it's a viable investment and that the risk is manageable, I will sign the papers right there on the spot." She was ecstatic. She threw her arms around me, telling me I was the best man in the world. She saw this as a mere formality, a little hoop she had to jump through to get what she wanted. She had no idea that I was not agreeing to a loan application. I was scheduling a corporate restructuring of our entire relationship. She called Kevin immediately, her voice bubbling with excitement. He was thrilled, of course. They were a team, celebrating their victory over the boring, practical guy who had finally seen the light. They thought they had just secured their funding. They had no idea they were about to be served with a notice of bankruptcy. The week leading up to the bank meeting was a study in arrogance. Maya was walking on air, treating me with a kind of benevolent condescension. She was the visionary who had successfully managed her stubborn, small-minded partner. Kevin was even worse. He called me, for the first time ever, to thank me. "Hey, man, I just wanted to say, I really appreciate you stepping up," he said, his voice slick with false sincerity. "Maya always said you were a good guy deep down. I guess you just needed a little push to see the bigger picture." I just told him I was looking forward to seeing his business plan. I spent that week preparing. I did not need to do much digging on Kevin. His life was a public record of failures. But I did a deep dive on my own finances, specifically on the quiet, steady drain that had been happening for the past 2 years. Maya was smart. She never asked me for large sums of money. It was always small things. "Can you spot me for my car payment this month? I'm a little short. My credit card is maxed out. Can you just put these groceries on yours? Kevin needs $500 to fix his van. I'll pay you back next week." She never did, of course. I had let it slide because I loved her and because I could afford it. I had filed it under the acceptable losses of a long-term partnership. Now I recategorized it. It was no longer a loss. It was a debt. I went through 2 years of bank statements and credit card bills. I documented every single dollar that had flowed from my accounts to hers, or to cover her expenses, outside of our agreed-upon 50-50 split on household bills. Every car payment, every student loan installment she had forgotten, every Venmo request from her that I had paid. I also tracked down every cash withdrawal she had made from our joint account, cross-referencing them with texts where she had mentioned needing to help Kevin. The final number was shocking, even to me. Over the course of 2 years, she had funneled nearly $20,000 of my money into her own life and into the black hole that was Kevin. I put it all into a single, beautiful, and utterly damning spreadsheet. Then I had my lawyer draft 2 documents. The first was a formal loan agreement, turning the $20,000 into a legally binding debt from Maya to me, with a standard interest rate, due in full upon the dissolution of our domestic partnership. The second document was the dissolution of our domestic partnership. The day of the meeting arrived. I met Maya and Kevin in the lobby of the bank. They were a picture of smug confidence. Kevin was wearing a new suit, probably bought with the last dregs of Maya's credit. He was carrying a thin folder that supposedly contained his business plan. Maya squeezed my hand. "You're doing a great thing, Jake," she whispered. We were shown into a large, glass-walled conference room. My loan officer, Carol, was already there. Carol is a woman in her 60s with a no-nonsense demeanor and eyes that can spot a fraudulent expense report from 100 paces. I had briefed her the day before. She was not just my loan officer today. She was my co-counsel. We all sat down. Kevin, with a flourish, slid his folder across the polished table to Carol. "I think you'll find it's a very exciting opportunity," he said. Carol did not even open it. She just pushed it to the side. "We'll get to that," she said, her voice crisp. "But first, we have a pre-existing financial matter to address. My primary responsibility is to my client, Mr. Henderson. Before I can advise him on taking on a significant new liability, such as co-signing a $100,000 high-risk business loan, we need to clear up his current liabilities and exposure." She turned to me. "Jake, you have the documents?" I placed a thick, professionally bound folder on the table. I slid one copy to Maya and another to Kevin. "What's this?" Maya asked, her smile faltering for the first time. "That," I said, "is our due diligence. Open it." She opened the folder. The first page was the spreadsheet. $20,000 of her life, laid out in black and white, with dates, amounts, and reasons. I watched her face as she scanned the pages, the color slowly draining from it. Kevin leaned over to look, his smug expression turning to one of confused anger. "What is this? This is private?" "No," I said. "It's my bank statement, and it's the reason we're here. You see, before I can co-sign a loan for you, Kevin, I need to be sure that my own financial house is in order. And it seems there's a significant, unsecured debt on my books. A $20,000 loan that I have apparently extended to my partner, who has, in turn, been using it to fund you." I turned to Maya. "The second document in that folder is a repayment agreement. It formalizes the debt you owe me. I need you to sign it." She just stared at me, her mouth opening and closing, but no words coming out. "And the final document," I said, "is a dissolution of domestic partnership. It outlines the terms of our separation. It includes a timeline for you to vacate my property and a final accounting of our shared assets, which, as you know, are minimal since I have been covering the majority of our expenses." I leaned back in my chair. "So, here is the situation. I cannot, in good conscience, take on a new financial risk while my current partnership is so clearly a bad investment. Therefore, this is what is going to happen. You, Maya, are going to sign the repayment agreement for the $20,000 you owe me. You are also going to sign the dissolution agreement, ending our relationship. Once those are signed and notarized, and yes, Carol is also a notary, we can discuss the next steps." I turned to Kevin. "And you, Kevin, once Maya is no longer my financial dependent, and once she has a legally binding debt to me that will be reflected on her credit report, I am sure Carol will be more than happy to look at your business plan and consider your loan application on its own merits, with Maya as your potential co-signer." The trap was sprung. The silence in the room was absolute. Maya was staring at the documents, her hands shaking. She looked at me, her eyes full of a dawning, horrified understanding. She had walked in here expecting to secure a future for her ex-boyfriend. Instead, she was being presented with a bill for her past and an eviction notice from her present. Kevin, for his part, looked like he had been electrocuted. He looked at Maya, not with love or concern, but with the pure, panicked rage of a parasite whose host has just been quarantined. "You can't do this," Maya finally whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. Carol, the loan officer, finally spoke. "Actually," she said, her voice as dry as dust, "he can. These documents are all perfectly legal. Now, do you have a pen, or shall I provide one?" The aftermath was as messy and as satisfying as I had anticipated. Maya refused to sign at first. She and Kevin stormed out of the bank, but the reality of her situation set in quickly. She had no legal leg to stand on. The evidence was all there, in my bank statements. My lawyer sent a follow-up letter making it clear that if she did not sign the agreements, I would pursue the matter in civil court, a process that would be far more public and far more expensive for her. A week later, a signed and notarized copy of the documents arrived at my office via courier. She had to move out, of course. She is now living with her parents. The $20,000 debt she owes me is a formal judgment against her. It has destroyed her credit. She will be paying me back, in small, court-ordered installments, for a very long time. Every payment is a reminder of the choice she made. Her relationship with Kevin imploded. The moment he realized she was no longer a source of income, but a source of debt, his affection for her vanished. He is now, for the first time, completely on his own. His artisanal food truck, it seems, will have to wait. I did not do this to be cruel. I did it because it was the only logical solution. She presented me with a bad investment, a deal that was all risk and no reward. So I did what any good financial planner would do. I cut my losses, hedged my assets, and divested from a partnership that was destined to fail. She wanted me to co-sign a loan to help him start over. Instead, I made her sign a loan that is forcing her to do the same. And that is what I call a sound return on investment. When I confronted her about her late nights, she said coldly, "Relax. I'll do whatever I want until you put a ring on it." I nodded. But when she came home to find the ring box empty, her hands shook. I am an architect. I design buildings. My job is to create structures that are logical, strong, and built to withstand pressure. I deal in blueprints, stress tests, and the laws of physics. I've always applied the same principles to my life. Build on a solid foundation, and do not ignore the warning signs of structural fatigue. For 4 years, I thought my relationship with my girlfriend, Amanda, was a skyscraper. Turns out, it was more of a circus tent, held up by my effort and a few flimsy ropes. Amanda is a force of nature. She is beautiful, charming, and has an energy that can light up a room. She also has a deeply held belief that the world is her personal VIP lounge, and that the rules are more like gentle suggestions. For a long time, I found this exciting. It was a chaotic variable in my otherwise orderly life. We were a team, or so I thought. We lived in my apartment, a place I designed myself. We had plans, goals. The blueprint was on the table. The first signs of structural fatigue appeared a few months ago. Her girls' nights started getting later. A lot later. What used to be a 10 o'clock return turned into a midnight return. Then 2 in the morning. Then 4. She would come home smelling of expensive perfume I did not recognize, and with vague, smiling explanations about losing track of time. Now, I am not a jealous man. I am a logical one. A change in a pattern is not an accusation. It is a data point. And the data was pointing to a problem. So last week, I decided to address it. I was not accusatory. I was calm. I waited until a quiet Tuesday night, made us dinner, and then I brought it up. "Amanda," I said, "we need to talk about these late nights. They are becoming a regular thing, and it is starting to feel disrespectful to our partnership." She put down her fork. The charming smile she usually wore was gone, replaced by a look of cold, hard ice. She looked at me as if I were a complaining tenant, not her partner of 4 years. "Relax," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "I will do whatever I want until you put a ring on it." I just stared at her. There it was, the quiet part said out loud. Our relationship was not a partnership. It was a contract that I had not yet signed. My respect, my feelings, my right to even question her behavior, all of it was being held hostage, pending the delivery of a piece of jewelry. It was the most honest thing she had said to me in months. I did not argue. You cannot argue with a hostage taker. You just analyze the situation and plan your rescue operation. I just nodded. A slow, thoughtful nod. "Okay," I said. "I understand." A triumphant little smirk played on her lips. She thought she had won. She thought she had put me in my place and established the terms of our future. She had no idea that in that moment she had not secured her future. She had just triggered its demolition. She came home last night, humming a little tune, expecting to find me waiting on the couch. Instead, she found a small black velvet box sitting in the middle of the dining room table, with a single spotlight from the ceiling illuminating it. She stopped dead in her tracks. Her eyes went wide. This was it. The moment she had been waiting for. The moment her ultimatum was met. She walked slowly toward the table, a huge, radiant smile spreading across her face. She reached for the box, her hands trembling with excitement. She opened it, and she found it was completely, utterly empty. Her hands started to shake for a different reason now. Update 1. It has been a week since Amanda came home to the empty ring box. A week of glorious, beautiful silence on my end, and a week of what I can only describe as a complete system meltdown on hers. Thank you for the comments and the support. It is nice to know that a well-executed plan is still appreciated. Let's rewind to the moment she opened that box. After the initial shock, her face turned from confusion to a deep, burning rage. "What is this?" she hissed, her voice shaking. "Is this some kind of sick joke?" "No joke," I said, walking into the room from the kitchen. "It is a symbol. You told me that my right to expect basic respect from you was conditional upon a ring." I thought about that, and I realized that a ring powerful enough to magically transform a person's character must be a very important ring indeed. So I went out and bought the best one I could find. I let that hang in the air for a moment. And then, I continued, I realized that I could never give that ring to a person who saw it as a transaction. A ring is not a down payment on good behavior, Amanda. It is a celebration of it. And based on your recent performance, you have not earned the bonus. She started to yell then. She called me a psycho, a manipulator. She said I had led her on. "Led you on?" I asked, and I could not help but laugh. "Amanda, you gave me an ultimatum. You told me I had to buy your loyalty. I just decided the price was too high. The product was faulty." That was when I laid out the rest of the plan. "Our relationship is over," I said, my voice calm and final. "I have packed your things. They are by the front door. I have also taken the liberty of canceling the supplementary credit card you have been using. You know, the one you have been using to fund those late nights out. And the car you are driving, the one that is leased in my name? The leasing company will be here to pick it up in the morning. I suggest you find another way to get to wherever it is you are going." The color drained from her face. The anger was replaced by a dawning, horrified understanding of her situation. She had not just lost a potential fiancé. She had lost her entire lifestyle. She spent the next hour trying every tactic in the book. She cried, she begged, she apologized. She said she did not mean what she said. But it was like watching an actor try to save a play after the set has already collapsed around them. I did not engage. I just sat on the couch and watched, like a building inspector observing a failed stress test. Finally, she gave up. She called one of her friends to come and get her. As she was leaving, she turned to me one last time. "You are going to regret this," she said, her voice full of venom. "I doubt it," I replied. "I am an architect. I know a bad investment when I see one. And you, my dear, are a teardown." The week since then has been a masterclass in consequences. She moved in with her best friend, a woman who is a carbon copy of herself. But without my financial support, Amanda's presence has quickly become a burden. I have heard through the grapevine that the late nights were even worse than I thought. She was not just going out, she was running up huge tabs at exclusive clubs, telling the owners that her rich fiancé would cover it. She was living the life of a wealthy, engaged woman without the actual engagement. This is where the second part of my plan came into play. The ring I bought was real. A beautiful and very expensive diamond ring. And as I told her, I sold it. But I did not just put the money in the bank. I used it to hire a forensic accountant. I had him go through all of our shared expenses for the past 2 years. Every dinner, every vacation, every shopping trip. He created a detailed report, a perfect blueprint of her financial dependence on me. The final number was staggering. She had been living a life that cost twice her actual income, and I had been unknowingly funding the difference. I sent this report to her, along with a formal letter from my lawyer. The letter stated that while I was not seeking repayment, the document would serve as official evidence of her financial character should she decide to pursue any legal action against me, like trying to claim palimony. The letter also made it clear that I would be sharing this information with any credit agencies or financial institutions that inquired about her, as is my legal right. She is now in a cage of her own making. She cannot get a loan. She cannot get a new credit card. Her reputation as a financially stable person is in ruins. Her friends, the ones she was out with on those late nights, have also started to distance themselves. They were happy to party on my dime, but now that the bank is closed, they have found other, more profitable people to hang out with. She thought she was playing a game of chicken, that I would swerve at the last minute to avoid a crash. She did not realize I was not driving a car. I was driving a bulldozer, and I was more than happy to go right through the wall. Update 2. It has been a month since I showed Amanda the empty ring box and the front door. The demolition of her carefully constructed world is now complete. I have spent the last few weeks observing the cleanup, and it has been, for lack of a better word, educational. After the initial shock and the failed attempts at intimidation, Amanda's strategy shifted. She tried to rebrand the narrative. She went on a full-scale social media campaign, painting herself as the victim of a cruel, manipulative man. She wrote long, vague posts about emotional abuse and being financially controlled. She was trying to build a new structure, a house of lies, where she was the wronged party. Unfortunately for her, I am a very good architect. I know how to build things that last. I did not engage with her online. I did not need to. I had already laid the foundation for the truth. The detailed financial report I had sent her was my cornerstone. She made the mistake of trying to solicit sympathy from a mutual acquaintance, a woman who runs a popular local blog. She told the blogger her sob story, hoping for a sympathetic article. The blogger, a smart woman who values her credibility, did her due diligence. She called me. I did not give her my side of the story. I just gave her the facts. I sent her a redacted copy of the forensic accountant's report. I sent her a timeline of Amanda's late nights, and I told her the exact words of Amanda's ultimatum. I will do whatever I want until you put a ring on it. The blogger did not write the article Amanda was hoping for. Instead, she wrote a scathing piece about the dangers of transactional relationships and the entitlement of people who see their partners as a living bank account. She did not use our names, but the details were so specific that everyone in our circle knew exactly who she was talking about. Amanda's victim narrative was not just debunked, it was publicly ridiculed. Her social media campaign imploded. She was exposed as a user and a liar. The consequences have been cascading. The friend she was staying with, not wanting to be associated with the scandal, asked her to leave. With her credit in ruins and no savings, she was unable to rent an apartment on her own. She was forced to do the one thing I know she dreaded more than anything else. She had to move back in with her parents. Her parents are simple, hardworking people who live in a small town a few hours away. They are the kind of people who pay their bills on time and live within their means. I have met them a few times. They are decent people who were always a little mystified by their daughter's lavish lifestyle. Now they know the truth. They know that the life their daughter was living was a fantasy, funded by my income and her own deception. The shame, I am told, has been immense. She is a 30-year-old woman, living in her childhood bedroom, with no job, no friends, and a mountain of debt that she has no way of paying. The best part of this whole story, the part that brings a small, sarcastic smile to my face, is what I did with the money from the ring. I did not just put it in the bank. I used it to start a foundation. A small one, but a real one. It provides grants to young architects, helping them with the startup costs for their own firms. It is called the Solid Ground Foundation. Last week, we awarded our first grant to a brilliant young woman who has an incredible vision for sustainable housing. There was a small ceremony. A picture of me handing her the check was featured on the same local blog that had exposed Amanda's lies. Amanda saw it. I know she did. Because a few hours after the article was posted, I received an email from a new account. It was just one sentence. I hope you are happy. I did not reply. But the answer is yes, I am happy. I am happy that my money is being used to build something real, something that will last, instead of being used to fund a life of lies and illusion. She gave me an ultimatum, a demand for a ring. And in a way, I gave her what she wanted. She wanted the ring to be the center of her world. And now it is. The money from that ring has become a symbol of everything she lost. It is a foundation that is helping other people build their dreams, while she is left in the ruins of her own. She wanted a ring to put on her finger. Instead, she got a life that is now permanently boxed in by the consequences of her own choices. Final update. It has been 6 months since the night of the empty ring box. The dust has settled, and the new structure of my life is solid, peaceful, and completely my own. I am writing this final update because the story has reached its final, logical conclusion. My life is better than it has been in years. The Solid Ground Foundation has been more successful than I ever imagined. We have funded 3 more projects, and the positive press has been incredible for my own business. It turns out that doing good is also good for business. Who knew? I have started dating again. It is different this time. I am not looking for a chaotic variable. I am looking for a partner, a co-architect. I met a woman, a landscape designer, and we connect on a level I never had with Amanda. We talk about blueprints, both for buildings and for life. It is a partnership built on shared principles, not on ultimatums. As for Amanda, her story is a quiet lesson in gravity. What goes up, especially when it is inflated with lies, must eventually come down. After months of living with her parents, she finally found a job. She is a hostess at a chain restaurant in her hometown, a far cry from the glamorous life she thought she was entitled to. She is paying off her debts slowly and painfully. She is living the life she can actually afford, and from what I have heard, it is a humbling and miserable experience. The final, perfect bookend to this story came last month. I was at a charity gala for a new hospital wing my firm had designed. It was a big, fancy event. As I was talking to a client, I saw her. Amanda. She was one of the catering staff, carrying a tray of appetizers. Our eyes met across the crowded room. For a second, I saw a flash of the old defiance in her eyes, a flicker of the rage. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by something else, a look of pure, unadulterated shame. She saw me, in my tailored suit, being congratulated by the city's most influential people. She saw the life she thought she was owed, the life she had thrown away, and she was there to serve it. She broke eye contact, turned, and disappeared into the kitchen. I did not see her again for the rest of the night. I did not feel a sense of victory. I did not feel pity. I just felt a sense of closure. The system had been debugged. The final error had been resolved. My revenge was not cruel. It was precise. It was architectural. I took the central pillar of her delusional worldview, the idea that a ring would buy her respect, and I removed it. And just as any architect would predict, the entire unstable structure came crashing down around her. She wanted a ring to be the price of her loyalty. Instead, the empty box became the symbol of her worth. She is now living a life that is, for the first time, truly her own. And she is discovering, I am sure, that the bare minimum is a lot harder to achieve when you are the only one paying the bills.